My family was not raised in any religion. My mother was a non-practicing Jew and my father was non-practicing Pennsylvania Dutch Mennonite stock.
Mm-hmm.
But, as I said, I was growing up in the 60s.
Yeah, you got a lot of exposure.
So when I was really little, no one ever said grace at the table because of this. But I would tell my mother, and I mean, when I just got goosebumps thinking about this, I would just say, I have to pray to Allah.
Hello, mystics, and welcome to the Occult Unveiled. This week, we have a vivacious show with Pleasant Gehman, the rock and roll witch. She's a burlesque dancer who recently published her memoir as the punk rock witch from Los Angeles. Welcome, Pleasant.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you here. I open up all of my episodes with a tarot reading. Would you be open to one?
Oh my God, yes. Since that's what I do, I never get readings for myself.
Okay, so I want you to close your eyes and I want you to focus on something that you need answers on, a specific situation in your life. Let me know when you have it in your head.
I have it in my head all the time. So here we go.
So the first card is what you know. And it's the 6 of coins. And this is the energy that you want from this situation, which is a balance of justice. We see money coming in. This could represent friendship. It also represents good and balanced leadership. And that could also be just the way we interact within our relationships, right? We want to be able to have a balance there of give and take. Here's what you don't know about the situation. Oh, the moon reversed. So it's a major arcana card. And when the moon comes out, we don't see very well. And there's 2 parts of every human being. There's the domesticated dog and the wild wolf. So this tells me that there's something inside of you. This could be a long-term, deep-seated issue emotionally that you have to do some serious healing on. And maybe you haven't been looking at it from that perspective. And here is the advice from Spirit, which is the 9 of Cups.
Oh, good. I love that card.
Good.
Sorry.
No, I'm so glad. This card.
Well, the first card too.
Yeah, this is your confidence. Yeah, this is the fat cat sitting with all of his cups. And what else does this card resonate for you?
Right. Well, it's always like wishes and dreams coming true. That's one of the ways that I read it to my clients. And the first card that you pulled is I always need more balance in my life too.
Mm-hmm. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into that situation and hopefully can help you.
Yay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I was so grateful to get this signed copy from you it's your memoir. You have lived an amazing life as a witch. And let's start at the beginning. One of my favorite parts in the book was you talked about how you first were introduced to magic and they were like cut out mail-in magazines. Were those real popular?
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I got a few different. Back in those days, for anyone that's listening, I just turned 64, which is like implausible to me. But in the late 60s and early 70s was when I really got interested in witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I knew you were going to ask this question because #I'm psychic. The very first book on witchcraft that I ordered, I think it was from the back of Cream magazine. It might have been from the back of a different rock and roll magazine, but it was called Potions and Spells in Witchcraft.
Right.
And it got lost somewhere along the line. But my friend Wendy, who's also a witch and a tarot reader, but we've never met in real life because we became pandemic friends. I hadn't seen my copy of the book in ages, and she had just bought it. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, you can still get it? Because I looked for it all over because it was like my baby steps book of witchcraft. And then she sent it to me. And so I still have it up on my desk. Actually, I almost dragged it out so you could see it today. But like, it had a lot of spells that were in sort of archaic language, because I think that that by the time I got it, I don't think that that was the first printing at all, but the illustrations of it were so beautiful in it. And and when I first got the book, I opened it up and it was exactly accidentally or synchronistically to my favorite illustration. So that was, and I remember my best friend Joan and I were all doing witchy stuff. We'd lay on we'd have slumber parties, but we'd watch like all the late night rock concert shows on TV, and then we'd smoke a bunch of weed and take off all our clothes and lay on our beds and try to astral project.
Astral projection. Astral projection is often mistaken as the soul leaving the body. However, nothing is leaving your body. In fact, when you have this experience, your brain's body schema, its perception of your physical form, is altered, giving the impression that your consciousness is detached because you're not perceiving your body in the way that you're used to.
Aw, that's so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was total 70s fun. I mean, now it might be OnlyFans fun, but we just thought it would make it easier to astral project if we didn't have any clothes or jewelry on or any like extraneous things, because in those days, people of your age and younger, or maybe a little bit older, have grown up with the internet, and we had none of it.
Yeah,
there was
exactly very different.
No cell phones, no social media, no email, so we were left to our own devices. And I would follow some of the spells in that book, but also I would make up and invent my own. Like, I knew what a Mojo Bag was, but I didn't really know what you did with it.
Mojo Bag. A small pouch filled with personal items, herbs, and charms, traditionally used in various magical practices for attracting desired outcomes.
So I would just write down stuff that I wanted to happen and put it in there, and just like with pennies.
Would you add to it like herbs? Okay.
Yeah.
So like money. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But also in those days, I didn't really know about herbs. Like, we had an herb garden, but I didn't know any kind of witchcraft associations with them. So I knew that you had to pay some kind of a coin for things, or I would go and do a good deed or something to someone, but other than that, like, a lot of that magic that I was using in those days was completely made up.
It was very intuitive. Yeah, that's really cool. I love learning about how people have grown in your craft. And when you moved to LA, that's kind of when you got to break out and really become like the rock and roll witch. I want to talk about your dance. You do such a beautiful job of bringing in the movement of the physical body into like the movement of spirituality and expression. When did you start belly dancing?
This is another story of complete synchronicity. I'd always wanted to be a belly dancer, even in punk rock. And I would call on my landline dance studios all over LA. And when I said, do you have belly dance classes? They would be like, no, like, as though I said, like, do you have like striptease classes? And
right.
In the nowadays and for years, like, a lot of people and studios offer like all sorts of pole dancing and striptease classes and burlesque classes. I mean, I myself do that, as well as belly dancing, like teach all that stuff. But in those days, studios were pretty much only about ballet and jazz. So after I'd already been belly dancing for a while, this lesbian couple I was friends with approached me, and one of them had just gotten accepted to a master's program, and they were going to go to Greece. And she said, I can't go, but if I give you the ticket, could you go with my girlfriend? And I said, of course. And I quit my job, because we were going to go. We were going to go originally, I think, for 6 weeks, but wound up staying for 8. But the first thing I said to her girlfriend was, do you have any interest in going to Egypt? And she said, oh, yeah, I always wanted to go to Egypt because it was right there. And let me just tell you and your listeners, these were paper tickets. Like it wasn't like a reservation online.
Yeah, you just win. Yeah.
Yeah. But so she didn't like Egypt at all. And I thought it was
Todd.
like the best thing on earth, to be there and to learn belly dancing.
And so who did you learn it from? Were there like classes there, or did you just like crash in? Like, how did you find that?
I found, there was belly dancing in clubs all over Egypt. So I saw a lot of it, but I wound up getting hooked up with a lady named Raya Hassan, she's taught like for decades, like even the most famous household word belly dancers in Egypt, because in Egypt they're a belly dancer and they can work in clubs, but they're also, many of them, TV stars, and some of them have been dancing for so long that were like at the peak of their career when I started and now have been retired for ages, but they're all still online. So when I came back, I started taking more belly dance classes, and I actually forced in my band, the Screaming Sirens, in rehearsal studio, I called up all these women I knew and said, we're having belly dance classes at my studio. And, a friend of mine who had turned into my teacher was going to teach them. And she was like a very proficient belly dancer and really talented. So the first class was packed. The second class missed a few people, the third class, and finally it just got down to me. So I started cleaning her house for belly dance private lessons. And I hate cleaning, but that's how much I wanted to belly dance.
Yeah, you're so passionate about this. Like, what does belly dancing represent to you? What does it mean?
Well, I'll tell you a story from when I was very small. This was when I was 4. And this, to me, like as an adult for many decades, it seems like past life stuff. My family was not raised in any religion. My mother was a non-practicing Jew and my father was non-practicing Pennsylvania Dutch Mennonite stock. But, as I said, I was growing up in the 60s. So when I was really little, no one ever said grace at the table because of this. But I would tell my mother, and I mean, when I just got goosebumps thinking about this, I would just say, I have to pray to Allah. And she would say, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I mean, this is when I was like 4 to 6 years old. So I was an odd kid and I grew into an even odder adult, but like that just seems crazy for that young of an age.
Yeah. And you had no exposure to like that particular religion. So like, why would you be saying that? That's very cool.
I know, that was wild.
And so as you grew up, like you always had this affinity, and belly dancing, was that like a representation of like femininity or the divine? What really drew you into it?
All of that. It's like, I believe it's the most feminine art form of, art of dance. Like someone could say that ballet was, but ballet was, it typically the choreographers and the leaders of the companies were male. And a lot of the movements in ballet are absolutely unnatural. And belly dancing is very earthy and very feminine. A lot of people think that the undulations and belly rolls and things come from early fertility rituals in North Africa.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
there's a and any belly dancer I know that's had a child, labor has, like, they may go into labor, but having the baby just like, it just comes because all the abdominal muscles and the pelvic floor, because of the muscles, is really developed from the movements of belly dance.
Oh, yeah. So you really get to see like the sexual energy at its strength and femininity. I think that in America, it's in, like you talked about in the beginning, people in the Western world see it as this form of like striptease, but it's much deeper than that. There's more, like, when you say it comes from early rituals, like this is very deeply ingrained in the expression of the feminine. And I think that's so beautiful.
Yes, there's a lot of other mystical North African or Egyptian dances too. Like people nowadays, they don't really associate belly dancing with stripping. They know, but most belly dancers, at least in past years, were horrified if they were compared to a burlesque dancer or a stripper, because it wasn't. And I understood that from both sides of the coin. I could see how they would be mad if it was associated with stripping, but I had been an underage stripper in New York, and I thought it was fun. And I made, like, my rent was $25 a week, and I would make like sometimes almost $500 a night. So I could then just go to England and see Susie and the Banshees, like on a whim.
Susie and the Banshees. I think our director, Michael Simon, is better equipped to answer this than me.
Yeah, thanks, Pythion. I think with Susie and the Banshees, you really have to keep it in a context of larger punk rock and goth rock. And when you look at where she came from, which was a direct descendant of Sex Pistols, and to where she wound up, which was an inadvertent, like, mother of goth rock, I think Susie embodied that in so many different ways, not just from the breakdown of the music.
Whoa. Michael, this is not VH1 Storytellers. We got it. Thanks.
Just trying to do my best.
But the movements of belly dance are also, it's really natural to the feminine body, and it's beautiful to watch. But what I was telling you was there's all these like really age-old mystical North African dances too. Like there's one called the Czar, which is performed all by women. And this is a trance dance. It's to put you in a trance so you can communicate with like ancestors or sort of find yourself and heal yourself. I mean, I could babble on and on about this for ages.
But
so since this isn't a dance,
I love hearing about that.
Yeah,
but
no, it's
I
amazing.
love hearing this because, like, in the Western world, right, in Christianity, it's like the body, the corporeal body is sinful. Dance is sinful. This, like, certain Baptist sects won't let you dance. But here you're saying this is a natural movement. This is the natural expression of the feminine. And I think that's so cool because we don't get that a lot in the West. And if we do have sexual dances, it's only for the male gaze. And that's, I think, what I was really trying to pinpoint is that belly dancing is beyond the male gaze, and it is a deeper religious expression, which is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, like, if you were in Egypt or North Africa, you wouldn't think that it was a religious expression, but it is like it is almost like a religion to most of the people that practice it, because it feels so healing. It's really great for your joints, for your muscles. Physically, the movements are very natural to women, even though a lot of them are very complicated, like the layered belly rolls that I do.
Yeah.
But there is so much history behind it. It's it's one of the oldest dances in the world, really.
Mm-hmm. And you do all different kinds of dance. Like this expression you're talking about through belly dancing is so different than the LA punk scene and the slam dancing and the burlesque. You really have all of these different talents.
Sometimes when people who don't know me and only know me from social media or something, they can't connect the dot. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, my journey, but they're like, how did you go from having punk rock bands to being a professional belly dancer?
Yeah, it just shows the dynamics.
But I mean, it didn't just decide overnight. That's what people don't understand. It was like there was a long journey.
Yeah. And you've come to a place where you've combined a lot of these different dances. You've combined burlesque with witchcraft and belly dancing. Tell me that kind of expression, like you're breaking a lot of conventions with that.
Thank you. I've always been a convention breaker. I mean, I think that was just in my nature. So my burlesque show, it's an occult burlesque show. It's called Bell, Book, and Candle. And we just entered our 6th year. Being at, I know it's crazy to me. I can't believe it's been going on once a month for 6 years. But that came to me in a full-on dream. I saw it in a dream. It was going to be like the movie Bell, Book, and Candle, which was a movie from 1958 starring Kim Novak as a bohemian kind of beatnik witch in Greenwich Village. Anyway, in the dream, I saw a neon sign that said Bell, Book, and Candle, but it had an E on the end of Bell, which is French for beautiful woman.
Cute. Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, there's a club called the Zodiac Club, and it was just kind of like a beatnik club. But I saw women on stage, dressed as cats or goddesses or devils or, just witches. And then I got a call from a girl that wanted private burlesque lessons. She'd been referred to me, and she wasn't calling me Pleasant. She was calling me my dance name, which is Princess Farhana. And Farhana means pleasant or happy girl in Arabic. And people just started calling me Princess because I always had crowns that went with my costumes. Anyway, so she called me and we set up a time. And when she came over for her lesson, like we both realized that like she understood that I wasn't Princess Farhana. I was someone that she knew from the Green Man store where we both do readings and where she works. And so the number she wanted to do was called Voodoo Housewife. And so we started working on it. I was helping her develop it, and she took direction so well. I couldn't believe it for someone who'd been dancing under a year. And then she invited me to dance at her birthday party. And when I went there, this was at a little dive bar in Northeast LA. It was everything like my vision of the show that I wanted to start. There was like some of the readers from the Green Man were there. And it was a show that had burlesque. Her burlesque class that she was in was dancing, and she had me doing burlesque and belly dance. So I waited a couple of days for her hangover to subside because, she was in her 20s and it was a milestone birthday. And so I said, do you want to start a show with me? And I told her all about it. And she said, yes. So we were looking for venues and we couldn't find a place that would have a quiet space for psychics, but also a nice raised stage and good sound and lights. And then I got this clairaudience in my head that would not stop, like all day long. It was telling me to call my friend Lena, who I'd known since the 80s and who's now, she's the culture editor at LA Weekly, but she was sort of patterning her writing career after mine in those days because I was writing for all the rock and roll papers. Anyway, I just texted her, and I'd been on the road so much. This was in 2017 when we started. I'd been touring nonstop that I decided I had to take the year off unless I already had a gig booked because I was gone like every weekend.
Oof,
so I called her. I texted her and I said, hey, if this is still your number, I want to run something by you. And she called me immediately and we caught up, and she said, what did you want to tell me about? And so I told her the premise of Bell, Book, and Candle. And she went, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Where do you want to do it? And I said, I keep coming back to one place, but I hear it's not doing too well lately. And she said, what place is that? And I said, El Cid on Sunset. And the phone, I thought the phone was dead for a minute. And then I finally realized she was still on the line. And I said, do you not think that's a good idea? And she said, did anybody tell you I started booking it last night?
Oh,
and
wow.
I screamed so loudly that she dropped the phone. And so then she gave us a date.
Synchronicity.
It was in 2 weeks. And the first show sold out. And then it just went rolling every show after that.
That's fantastic. And you got to bring to life something that you wanted to see, this immersion. Oh, it's beautiful. So tell me more about the show. Like, how do you involve witchcraft in the show? I know that there's a ritual that you do.
There's a ritual at every show, and we don't allow, I'm saying this in huge air quotes, we don't allow normal burlesque acts, meaning it can't be classic burlesque. It's got to have something to do with the occult or a fairy tale or a legend, or it's got to be like, wave fetishy.
It has a theme.
And most of the shows have themes.
Oh, so like, what's the audience like? Who comes to these shows?
It got to be kind of like a gathering for a lot of people in the pagan community every month.
Pagan community encompasses diverse spiritual traditions rooted in nature, emphasizing individual spirituality and reverence for the earth.
And then, so there's a lot of people that are magical and witchy and have different practices, but there's also a lot of regular burlesque fans, like just you know, or people that have never been to a burlesque show, but they're curious about it. We use a lot of local practitioners to do the rituals. So the rituals are always amazing, and they're varied. Like we've had Madame Pamita. We are going to have you, which I think is right around the time this podcast comes out. We've had Gabriella Herstick. I'm trying to think of who else. We've had so many. So each show's got a ritual, and the ritual always has audience participation in it. And we have occult and witchy vendors on the patio, and it's just it's really fun, and it's also really magical. We're actually working on a picture book about it right now, which will be out for Halloween season. With
oh, how fun!
It'll have spells in it, and quotes from performers and stuff.
Can anyone go to your show?
Anybody can go. Come to our show and be enchanted by the coven of stripping witches.
So when you dance, do you do any prayers beforehand? Do you invoke certain energies, or what are the archetypes that you use when you're dancing?
Yes, I used to always, my friend Mercy and I used to always, we'd pray to the spirits of dead pioneering dancers. Like we'd pray to Gypsy Rose Lee, who was a really famous burlesque dancer. We would just pick dancers that we liked, even if we'd only seen their pictures because they were from the 20s, and we would ask for having a good show, and just having, like, hoping to channel some of their energy. And that was always a backstage ritual of mine. Josephine Baker.
Josephine Baker, a pioneering African-American entertainer, known for her iconic performances and contributions to the fight against racial inequality.
I mean, just anybody you could think of.
What would that ritual look? Did you just like pray, open hands, or did you light a candle? Like, how did you bring that energy in?
With bell book and candle, we actually, I'd have to get up to show you guys that. But with bell book and candle, Shauna and I made Mojo bags with herbs that we both still have. We made them before the first show, and I'm sure that's probably one of the main reasons why it sold out. And
magic.
Yeah, it's magic. And those were real Mojo bags, not like the ones that I used to make in the 70s that I hoped
when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, what does your daily practice look like? What do you do like in the daily as a witch? Like, what is your routine?
I often have candles for various reasons burning day and night. I have to be really careful because I have 3 rambunctious cats. Aww. So for anyone using candles, I'm sure Ashley has already told you this, always put them in a fireproof container that's not only the glass of the candle if you're getting a pillar candle.
Yep. Been there.
I wind up doing a lot of like cleansing and protection rituals before I do work for my tarot clients or energy healing clients. Sometimes I just do, like, I have a giant 112-year-old tree in my yard, and her name is Grandma, and I always leave Grandma offerings along with water, like, so she can thrive. And she actually got cut down massively last year. I mean, not cut down, but she's so huge. They were taking off branches that it took like 2 or 3 men to carry out of the yard. And I was afraid she wasn't going to make it, but she did.
Oh, good.
So Grandma gets a lot of care. I always get grounded in the dirt, right? Before I start doing things with her. And her roots are like ridiculous. They had to fix the sidewalk patio part in my yard because her roots were like just exploding.
Yeah, powerful.
Everywhere.
Yeah. The nature spears. You don't hear a lot about that in Los Angeles.
Well, in where I live in LA, my yard is full of raccoons and possums and hummingbirds, and just people that look at my Instagram say I'm like Snow White. Like, there was a raccoon that was practically on my lap the other night, just
whoa,
because I went outside to have a smoke at like midnight, and all of a sudden I turned and there was this little raccoon like just sort of creeping there, and I was like, "Hi," and he kind of like backed up, like he thought he was being all stealth. But
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I don't have any raccoons where I live, but I have a cat too. So we shared that.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
cats. We have to have cats. It's the witch
Uh,
law.
um, how has your dancing impacted your practice? How has it empowered you?
My dancing, it allowed me to really feel my whole entire body sensually. And by sensually, I don't mean just sexually. I mean in all ways to take note of everything that's around me, of like going out and really feeling the sunshine on my skin and not just thinking, oh, I need to put on sunblock, I'm going to get burned. I mean, it dancing really connects me to nature and the world. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it really does. It just it's got a different way of tuning your body, and it also kind of improves your brain too because you're remembering so many
Hmm.
things, and especially for belly dancing, you're operating every part of your body at a different speed. Like your hands could be doing very slow waves, and your hips could be going furiously fast.
I love the idea that movement is medicine. And you see that just by like shaking your hips, it releases a lot of tension. What I've learned through the little yoga that I am familiar with is that our body holds tension. And Americans, we don't move very much. And I think dance is a wonderful expression to release that. And it can be a spiritual practice, like you've talked about.
Yeah, I love and anything that a person can do physically, dance wise, even if they feel like they're not a dancer. It's just it changes your energy completely in the moment too, you know, because it gives you lots of what's the word I'm searching for? I sound like an idiot right now. It releases like happy pheromones, you know.
Oh,
It's an
sure.
endorphin rush.
Endorphins.
That's
Mhm.
what I mean. It's
Right.
an endorphin rush, you know. Just even if you just like turn on a radio or your computer and just like dance for half a song, you will feel so much better.
Yeah, and I think that there's like it raises your vibration, it brings you joy, it's surges dopamine. And even if you're afraid that you have two left feet, like just being able to give one dance can be an offering. I learned that and I thought that was really cool. It is a performance, an expression, and it's also a healing modality. And even if you don't think you're good, like you said, just try it.
Yeah, it's definitely everything you said. It's definitely a healing modality. So many of my students, whether it was for belly dance or burlesque, have come to me like the percentage of people that came during a divorce or after like
Mm.
a huge loss is gigantic, and I don't think that they're conscious of that at first. They're just like they know they need some kind of a change, and a lot of times people have told me that they didn't have, their self-esteem wasn't good because they feel like they don't like their body or love their body, like they felt like they were too pudgy or their calves were too
Mhm.
thick or they were too tall and skinny, and I mean dance celebrates bodies of all shapes and sizes, and like you said, it's an offering and it's healing, and it really raises your vibration to watch some of my students grow over periods of weeks to years is incredible. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of the Bell Book and Candle regular performers, a lot of them were people I'd worked with who were already professional, but a lot of them came directly from my dance classes. Like I remember I had this one girl who unfortunately doesn't live on this coast anymore, but she said she was interested in doing burlesque. And I had just had a dream the night before about Baron Samedi. The you know for anyone that's listening, you may already know this, but it's one of the voodoo leg buzz. Like he was So I was like, oh my God, there has to be a burlesque act about Burn 70. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm a white girl. And so
Right.
this
Yeah.
girl was a gorgeous, gorgeous Black girl and a great dancer. And whether it was just an accident of fate or whether it was like, thanks universe type moment, she came to me and she said, I think I want to try burlesque. And I was like, I know what you're going to do.
Oh,
because
cool.
we had just started Velvet and Candle. And so I said, you're going to be Baron Samedi. And I had to explain to her who he was. And I showed her his veves. And the next week she comes back to class with pasties and a G-string. The G-string was in the shape of his coffin, beve, on a white
Whoa.
G-string with black rhinestones. And I mean, and so she had his top hat. She had
Oh,
everything
how
Baron
fun.
Samedi, and that became like a huge, huge hit. Like people went crazy when they saw that number.
That's a great story. And it shows, like, again, dance transcends cultures. Like, there's so many ways to express yourself.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, have you ever had any male students? Have you ever taught any men how to dance?
Oh, yes. I've had a lot of male students, and there's a lot of male dancers in belly dance. When I first started out, there
Really?
wasn't that many. Oh, there's lots because we Americans call it belly dance. In Egypt and over Arabic speaking nations, it's called Raqs Sharki or Raqs al Sharki, if you want to say it, which means dance of the East or dance of the
Mm-hmm.
Orient. Sometimes people call it Oriental dance because nobody knows exactly where it came from. But there's tons of dances that men do only by themselves, and they don't look like what we consider belly dance. These are like ancient dances, like where they would wear like the very traditional robe or galabia and have a turban on, and there's a dance called taktib, which is like men fighting each other with big sticks, whereas nowadays it would be like automatic weapons or knives if they came from no, I mean, so there's a lot of men that are into belly dance and to pan Arabic or pan cultural belly
Mm-hmm.
dance
Mm-hmm.
derived dances because Romani dance is very similar to belly dance. Uzbek dance is similar. It's got similar movements.
Wow.
Or
I had no idea.
yes, or as I say, it's the burritos and crepes concept. There's only so many things you can do with like a flattened out piece of dough and filling. So
Mm-hmm.
every culture has something like that. That's kind of like what the Eastern European and North African dances are like. And there's this concept called the Romani Trail, which starts in Eastern Europe and migrates through around Morocco. And when you look on that
Okay.
narrow trail, the dances are so similar in footwork and hip work
Hmm.
and movement in a way that they aren't in parts of Western Europe or the United States.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea. That's so cool. I'm gonna YouTube some of these because I want to see what this looks like.
Oh yeah,
Huh.
you've got to, yeah.
Yeah. How do you think dancing has informed your worldview? Because when I hear you talk, it sounds like you see the interconnectedness between people.
Yes. Well, dancing enabled me to for years I was on tour. So I've gone to places that I never would have gone to if I wasn't dancing. Like that first trip to Greece and Egypt, I've been to Egypt countless times since then. I've been brought to China to do workshops. I've toured all over Europe and the UK several times. So
Mm-hmm.
it's allowed me to see like what any kind of dancing is like in Portugal or like in on the Isle of Man in the UK or in Hong Kong or any it's been really interesting. And dance is it's pretty much a movement language. Like if you are
Right.
a dancer, and I don't just mean belly dancing, whatever you're doing will translate, or you will be able to get along with other dancers because you don't really I mean, if you're really teaching, you may have to explain a movement, but otherwise, you could dance with anybody in any culture if you're not feeling self-conscious about it. And if you're a professional dancer, you never are. I mean, you may think, oh, I had a crappy performance, but you don't feel self-conscious about your dancing or about the movements of the body or anything like that.
Yeah. And that's like so special because I just grew up in a world where dancing was sinful. Like literally at dances at like middle school and high school, you know, they had like keep room for Jesus, 6 inches for Jesus. And yeah.
Well, wait, that made me think of something else. Wink, wink, nudge.
No. I don't think that's what the monks meant.
No, I know that's not, but of course that's exactly where my filthy mind went to. I thought Jesus was a little bit bigger. No, sorry.
So like dancing to me was considered to be very sinful. It's something that you did not want to do. And so getting to see like and expressing yourself through dance, and it literally connects you to the divine, it connects you to earth, and it's a form of self-expression that doesn't have to be evil. So I really hope that our listeners take that with, you know, a whole lot of heart and allow themselves to dance, no matter their body size. Like you said, it's for everyone.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I once again, I'll tell you that like one of my, I didn't tell you about this. I used to do constantly a dance called Raxel Shamadan. And a Shamadan, imagine a giant Liberace candle holder on top of his piano, a giant one. I balance those things on my head. That's called Raxel Shamadan. It's an Egyptian tradition from before there was electricity. They would parade the bride and groom through the streets, and there'd be dancers in front and alongside and in the back of them playing finger cymbals and doing zagarits, which are that really loud noise I'm not going to make into the microphone or everyone will go deaf. But you balance the candles on your head and it would illuminate the bride and groom in their first moments as man and wife. You know, it was their procession into married life. And so, you know, that everybody in Egypt or in any kind of Arab clubs here knows the traditional wedding songs. And it's so much fun to see like 89-year-old grandmas get up and dance with you when you're working at an Arabic wedding, or 5-year-olds. When I was I had a car accident, and the person who hit me, the idiot who was texting's lawyer, like she was trying to discredit me. Like, she's like, well, Miss Gehman, I heard you're a belly dancer. And just in a lucky way, by chance, my attorney, who is a beautiful woman, was Persian. And I said, well, yes, but I think you might have the wrong concept of it, because in many cultures, it's a family dance. Grannies and grandpas do it. Kids do it. Ask my lawyer. And then her name was Persian. So the insurance adjuster that was being a complete bitch, just like had stuck her foot so far into her mouth she was choking.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Oh, that story is in my book too, I think, actually. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So you sound so optimistic about the future. Do you think that embracing dance and embracing witchcraft holds a lot of hope for future generations?
I do. I think that does too. I mean, I think both of those things, but I've always been sort of naturally optimistic and adventurous, which is one of the reasons why I think I was so interested in occult when I was younger, because to me, it had the same kind of like cachet with a little bit of danger in it that punk rock did later in my life, you know? And I think a lot of people they're not fearless about things. They get apprehensive, but I just don't even know like how I will have time to do all the stuff that I want to do. And a lot of it seems like really outre or edgy or just bizarre, but it's stuff that I've always been interested in, you know?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. Like, I want to go skydiving, but I'm not going to do it until at my 80th birthday. I've already decided.
What?
Because at that point, my bones might be so shot that like I'll just turn into dust on the way down.
Oh my gosh.
So I couldn't skydive now, because then if anything happened, I wouldn't be able to dance for a while. And
Right. That's what
really
I was just
important to
thinking.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot, you're right about the apprehension. People are so worried, especially in the age of cell phones, like, oh, I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to be a joke on the internet. But giving your body and moving it and giving it that chance for self-expression is important. And I hope that's something that all of our listeners will be able to take away. And where can they find you on social media so they can see some of your dancing, Pleasant?
On social media, on Instagram, I am Princess of Hollywood, all one word. And it has a blue check by the name, because like Ashley and almost every other magical practitioner we know, there's scammers impersonating us. And I had been trying to get verified for ages, and they wouldn't do it until finally I submitted one. And I said, look, I've had over 54 imposters in the last 6 months. And then I woke up the next morning to people texting me saying, congratulations on the blue check. And I didn't know that I had it. So that's Instagram, Princess of Hollywood. On Twitter, I'm Pleasant Gehman 1. That's PLEASANT GEHM as in man, AN as in Nancy 1. And I'm also Princess Farhana, FARHANA. Farhana means happy or pleasant girl in Arabic. And you can get my book, Rock and Roll Witch, which Ashley is displaying, at my website, pleasantgehman.com, or you can buy it on Amazon, but it won't be kissed and signed. Hint, hint.
I know. I was so special. I know. I was so lucky. Oh, Pleasant, it has been such a wonderful time to talk to you about something I didn't really know a whole lot about. So thank you for sharing your journey with me.
Wow. Thank you for having me. It was great. And bye, everyone that's listening.
And until next time, Mystics, stay magical.
The Occult Unveiled is produced by F Street Productions and M is for Magic. Our executive producers are Ashley Ryan, Michael A. Simon, and Scott Kushner. Our show is produced by Deborah Simon. Our audio producer is Bill Schultz. Our talent booker is Perry Turcott. Laura Kaufman is our coordinator. Thank you for listening, and for more information on any of the topics you heard today, plus really cool links and ways to learn about Ashley, Pythian, and all of our guests, go to theoccultunveiled.com website. The Occult Unveiled, copyright 2023.